On today's show, Kevin Durant drops another efficient 30 pieces. The Rockets take care of business against the Pacers, but Steven Adams does leave the game with an injury. What that means for the Rockets' big man rotation going forward and more. It's all coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Now, the #1 sports podcast network. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. Be sure to follow along wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets. On today's show, we're talking about the Rockets' 126-119 win against the Pacers, a final score that does not really illustrate how much of a blowout this game actually became. We'll talk about the garbage time minutes a little bit later on. We'll also get into Kevin Durant with another ridiculously efficient 30-piece to lead the way for the Rockets. Some great contributions from Twin Reaper, Jabari Smith Jr. as well in this one. 21 points for him. Amen Thompson flirting with a triple-double in this game. The improved Rockets spacing on offense, the defense continuing to look a lot better with the addition of Dorian Finney-Smith and Dorian DFS kind of settling into his role as well, getting his feet under him. It's exciting to see that as well. The bad news from this game was the Steven Adams injury. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the episode as well. And of course, want to thank you for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you so much for being one of our amazing everydayers. All right, 126-119. And look, final score be damned. This was a total blowout, right? Rockets dominated the Pacers for 3 straight quarters. They won the first quarter by 5. They won the second quarter by 13. They won the third quarter by 9. This was the Rockets taking care of business against a bad Pacers squad. It was a little clunky early in the game. Some back and forth shooting, and then the Pacers got really hot from 3 early in the first quarter. And at one point they were like 7 of 11 from downtown to start the game from long distance. They only finished the game. Well, they finished the game 18 of 34. Only finished the game 18 of 34. They shot 53% for the game. They hit like a really cold patch in the middle of the game, and then they went just absolutely ballistic from 3 in the fourth quarter. But it was a little too late for the Pacers. But this was a game that was tied up at one point 30-30 early in the second quarter, and the Rockets went on what became a 20-3 run to take firm control of this game, 50-33, and they just never really looked back at that point. Like, I mean, they ran away with this thing in the second quarter, and then they were more or less able to coast. I say coast with maybe some brackets, some air quotes, to the finish line, with some slippages there in the final frame, particularly by the garbage time crew. But this was another really strong, efficient 30-piece from Kevin Durant. 30 points on 20 shots, 13 of 20 shooting overall, 65% shooting from the floor from KD. That's just absurd. He was 2 of 6 from downtown, 2 of 3 at the charity stripe, had 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 block, 3 turnovers, was a plus 14 in his minutes. And it's becoming a routine thing, but seeing Kevin Durant just pick apart an opposing defense, watching the Pacers, again, for the second straight game, I don't know where these coaches are getting their game plans from. I don't know what Rick Carlisle was smoking, but teams who elect to guard Kevin Durant in single coverage are just asking to get cooked. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you're gonna let KD get to his spots on the floor, if he gets to the elbow, if he gets to the nail area of the floor, that little 15 to 18 foot range, and he's able to either get his back to a defender and get to that turnaround fade, or dip the shoulder in and create that separation, it's curtains. It's game over. And the Pacers let him routinely get to those spots on the floor where he loves to operate. And once you get Kevin Durant cooking the way that he was in this game, which it started early on in this game. I mean, Kevin Durant had another really impressive first quarter in this one, 13 points on 5 of 9 shooting to start the game. Both him and Amen Thompson had a pair of really impressive first halves in this game. Kevin Durant wound up having that big first quarter, 13 points. He finished the first half with 15, but that really big first quarter kind of set the tone. Amen Thompson in the first half had 14 points on 4 of 7 shooting. And it was a well-rounded affair for the Rockets offensively in this one. You had Kevin Durant and Jabari and Amen Thompson kind of doing the heavy lifting, all scoring 20 plus each for those three. But you had great contributions across the board from everybody else. Tari Eason, Steven Adams, DFS off the bench, hitting a couple threes. Reed Shepherd with 13 points off the bench. This was a good collaborative group effort for Houston. And I do want to spend some time talking about Jabari in a minute, but obviously it all starts and stops with Kevin Durant. And one thing that has become at least apparent over these last handful of games, and this is in no small part, due to the Rockets getting DFS back, but the spacing just looks better. Like these last handful of games, the Rockets spacing has looked a lot better. We've seen no double big lineups, and some of that has been because Alperen Sengun has been out with his calf strain that he apparently re-aggravated a little bit on Christmas Day against the Lakers. So it was kind of sore that day. He played through it, made it a little bit worse. So now they're just being really cautious with it. There's a chance that LP returns to action on New Year's Day against the Nets. And that would be really beneficial considering the fact that Steven Adams is now hurt and we don't have a timeline on him. So, but the spacing has just been a lot better for this Rocket squad. And the spacing being better has benefited KD. It's benefiting Amen Thompson. It's benefiting Jabari Smith Jr. And it's going to be really important to see how Ime Udoka juggles these things, his lineups, and does he go back to using some of the double big lineups because he wants to get as many minutes as possible for Alperen Sengun and Steven Adams, or does he go back to, or do the Rockets kind of elect to stick with one big at a time and prioritizing the spacing over trying to squeeze those extra, 5 to 8-ish minutes out of Steven Adams backing up Sengun off the bench? Because that's one of the reasons they run the double big, is just because Steven Adams is so effective when he's on the floor. But with the improved spacing, with having Tari and DFS back out there to help space the floor properly, you're getting a lot more room to operate for different guys, right? And so that's one of the reasons that I think you're seeing Kevin Durant have so much room to operate, that teams aren't as aggressive in their coverages of him, in part because if you try to double team Kevin Durant, he's got shooters in Tari Eason and Jabari Smith Jr. to be able to kick it out to, guys who are at the top of the opposing team scouting reports that says don't leave them open or it's going to be a 3-pointer in your face. And that additional floor spacing with, again, those two guys in this game combining to go 4 for 10 from downtown. But that additional floor spacing it's felt like it's opened some things up offensively for this Rockets team, which is, worked really well over these last handful of games as the Rockets are on this little 3-game winning streak now. Coming up, do you want to talk about some of the game flow, the turnovers, which are, continue to be a bit of a problem for this Rockets team. Pacers taking advantage off of those. And then Jabari Smith Jr., his big night, his role offensively for this Rockets squad, as well as the Steven Adams injury. Going to talk about all of that coming up here in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. During basketball season, there's nothing like being in the building, the energy, the crowd, the first big run that gets everybody on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are actually going to cost. That's where Game Time comes in. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets fast, simple, and without the guesswork. Browsing the Game Time app is straightforward and intuitive. Finding tickets takes just a few taps. Seeing the view from your your seat before buying makes choosing tickets fast, easy, and it gives you utmost confidence in your purchase. Prices include fees up front, so the total is clear from the start. Whether it's an NBA game or another live event, everything is right there in one place. So take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today and get in on the action. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Not only was the Slim Reaper putting in work in this game, but so was Twin Reaper Jabari Smith Jr. 21 points on 8 of 16 shooting. Mentioned his 3-point shooting earlier. He was 3 of 7 in this one. Couple hits at the charity stripe. Had 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 block shots. Had that really impressive sequence in the second quarter, hit the 3, comes back down on the defensive end, gets the block, and then comes back down on the offensive end and gets the alley-oop lob to Amen Thompson. Some really good stuff. A great sequence from Jabari Smith Jr. And look, Jabari is a guy who I've been one of Jabari's biggest supporters for the longest time. I know that while the Rockets were kind of in their little slumping period there, I was a little worried about defensively, if this team was giving up too much by way of the point of attack defense with Jabari and KD out there. But obviously the insertion of Tari Eason into the starting lineup has kind of helped fix some of the point of attack defensive stuff. So Tari has completely changed the game there, which is pleasant to see. It's a much needed improvement defensively, getting Tari back and then obviously getting Tari back and putting him in the starting lineup, and then obviously getting DFS back has helped the defense a ton. But watching Jabari kind of settling in offensively has been really encouraging. This is his 6th straight game of 15 or more points, which matches, or it is a new career high for him as far as just his consistent scoring output. And here's the thing is the Rockets need that consistent scoring from him, because on a night-to-night basis, you can rely on KD to get buckets, right? You can rely on Alperen Sengun to get you, pretty much he's almost a guaranteed 20 points a night. And the only games where Sengun doesn't at least hit 20 points are the games where everybody else is cooking so much that he doesn't really feel the need to, I guess, go get his quote unquote. So the Rockets have 2 guys on any given night who can do a majority of the heavy lifting offensively, be it scoring the ball themselves or facilitating for their teammates in Kevin Durant and Alperen Sengun. But for this Rockets team, the question mark kind of becomes like, who is their consistent third best offensive player, right? Conventional wisdom might point towards Amen Thompson, and Amen has had some fantastic games. He's had some great stretches, but Amen is also, I think sometimes his ability to score the ball is sometimes matchup dependent, lineup dependent. There's certain factors that make it a little bit harder, I think, for Amen Thompson to be like the Rockets incredibly reliable third banana. Let's say that, right? The shooting woes in particular, right? Depending on how aggressive a team tries to be about just straight up denying Amen Thompson, dropping, sagging off, forcing him into 3-pointers, that kind of stuff. That kind of leads back to some of the spacing issues that this team has dealt with earlier in this season. But Jabari feels like this year has been a big year for him. Obviously, he's stepped up. He's had a much bigger role with this team, losing his starting spot last year to Amen, being reinserted to the starting lineup this season. And when Jabari is consistently hitting offensively, everything else just kind of clicks for this Rockets team. Like, he is kind of their X factor on offense, because he can be a guy that can just fill his role, spot up at the 3-point line, be we've talked a lot at the show over time or over the years about being a star in your role, right? Shout out to our weekly co-host, Madison Moore, right? That's one of his favorite, terminologies to use, star in your role. And Jabari is a guy who's excelled in the past and even this season at being a star in his role. But at the same time, there's games where Jabari is capable of doing more. Now, there have been some games this season where Jabari's done a little too much, right? Taken too many shot attempts, gotten in some, he's not exactly the guy that you want setting the table offensively, right? You don't want Jabari walking the ball up and initiating offensive sets. It's probably not ever going to be his bag. But at the same time, Ime kind of, giving guys a bit of a longer leash, especially with the fact that they don't have, a go-to traditional floor general out there for significant chunks of the game because they're kind of point guarding by committee to this point in the season. But when you see a game like this, right, where Jabari got so many opportunities on mismatches, on post-ups, right, where he would have a smaller defender, if it's Andrew Nembhard or somebody else from the Pacers on a, not even on a switch, but just on a mismatch, right? Because the Rockets play with so much size that there's going to be a mismatch somewhere, right? Like if you put the opposing team's two best defenders on Durant and Amen Thompson, or on any given game, right? If you have, Alperen Sengun out there as well, and defenses are having to account for KD and Alpi and Amen, then that's where Jabari Smith Jr. can really feast. And it felt like the Rockets did a good job of taking advantage of those mismatches in this game. In particular, I mean, Jabari woke up in a big way in the second half. He finished with 21 points. He had 14 of those 21 in the second half of this game. He had those back-to-back threes in the third quarter, early in the third quarter, as the Rockets were kind of, building out that lead a little bit further. He had one sequence where he dove in and got a really good offensive rebound, like a one-handed offensive rebound, and went back up with it. Liked a lot of the mid-range attempts that he took in this one. Just a really solid overall night of production for Jabari Smith Jr. And watching, seeing, hell, even, I mean, he and KD are so attached at the hip. They did their post-game interview together after this one, which is funny to see. But really just seeing, and hearing Kevin kind of talk about post-game, how he and Jabari have talked, and what one of the things that they discuss and talk about is the fact that they don't want to allow opposing defenses to kind of dictate what they're doing or not doing offensively, right? They're such unique players. The specific quote is that me and Bari have talked a lot about us taking the shots we want to take, not letting the defense dictate what we do out there, using our length and our size to get our shots off. And Kevin is a master at this, right? We saw it all throughout this game. We've seen it all throughout Kevin Durant's entire career, right? He gets to his spots on the floor. He uses his size, his length, his ball handling ability, his high release point. He is unguardable in every sense of the word, unless you send multiple players to try and stop him. And Jabari Smith Jr. has a lot of the same skill sets and ability to play similarly, at least stylistically, to Kevin Durant, right? No idea if the ball handling ever gets to the same level as KD. I'm not saying Jabari will become KD, but the fact that Jabari is able to learn from KD, the fact that he's able to work alongside him every single day, the fact that he has Kevin Durant in his ear telling him, hey, you have that mismatch, take advantage of it. Hey, when you catch the ball in this spot, right, don't waste your dribbles, right? Don't put the ball low where a guard can swipe at it and get to it, right? Take one or two dribbles, get to your midi pull up, right? One thing that's been really encouraging to see from Jabari this year is not only has he felt like a better finisher on some of his just straight line drives to the rim, but he's also just gotten more confident about taking those middies, right? There were possessions, or there have been a lot of possessions, then there were a couple of them in this game, right, where in previous years Jabari might have just tried to drive the ball all the way into the teeth of the defense, and then you've got two or three guys collapsing on top of you, and you're trying to finish through multiple sets of outstretched hands or over another big or whatever, and that's not Jabari's bag, right? Think about how often Kevin Durant operates out of the mid-range and how often he prefers to sometimes pull up, 5, 7, 8 feet away from the rim and take that little midi because it's basically a layup for KD, as opposed to trying to get all the way to the rim, right? It feels like Jabari's kind of adopted a little bit of that similar mentality where there have been a lot of plays this season where Jabari, instead of going all the way to the cup, will pull up from 5 feet, 10 feet away from the rim and just take that little midi pull up, because that is a more unguardable shot for Jabari to just raise up and elevate and shoot over the top of the defense. And as long as he's consistent with that, right? I mean, it really helps unlock the rest of the Rockets offense, and it gives them another reliable go-to offensive option, a guy that they can dump the ball down to, right? I mean, again, if most games you've got Kevin Durant being checked by the opposing team's best defender, and then maybe Amen Thompson being guarded by the second best defender, that leaves likely a mismatch for Jabari Smith Jr. that the Rockets can effectively exploit every single night. And we saw that a lot last season when the Rockets were running those jumbo lineups, the double big lineups where Jabari was all the way down at the 3. That provided a lot of mismatches. And we do see a lot of mismatches this season. So it's great to see Jabari Smith Jr. continue to take advantage of these opportunities to take advantage of a bigger offensive role this season. And when you factor in everything that he's able to do offensively, which it still feels like we're only just barely scratching the surface of what he can truly become offensively, but you couple that with the rebounding, the rim protection, which has continued to gradually improve throughout his career, right? 3 blocks in this game. Jabari's kind of developed a good nose for those kind of like weak side shot blocking attempts. He's a versatile switch everything defender. There's a lot to love about Jabari Smith Jr.'s play in particular in this game. But coming up, I do want to get into some of the game flow, talk a little bit about the turnovers that the Rockets are continuing to deal with, that Achilles heel for this team, as well as the Steven Adams injury, and final thoughts from this one. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode was brought to you by FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, boosts, bonuses, and different surprises. The timing is perfect right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Now, the Rockets did get this win, 126-119. I was lamenting the garbage time efforts of this squad. This game was 122-101 with a little more than 3 minutes left. And the Pacers ripped off 18 very quick points. Who was it that was doing all this damage? Quentin Jackson was just playing out of his mind in the closing moments. There was a possession where I want to say, who was it? It wasn't Micah Potter. Was it Talon Peter? I don't know. So somebody hit a 3, got fouled on it, had an and one opportunity, missed a free throw, kicked, and then it got kicked back out. And then Quentin Jackson hit a catch and shoot 3 off the offensive rebound. And that was like a quick 6 points for the Pacers. The garbage time was a bit of a mess. I mean, thankfully Ime didn't have to like break glass and like bring the starters back in to actually close this one out. But the Rockets just got to figure out a way to like actually like, hell, just let Jeff Green isolate on the low block. I don't know. Figure out something they got. Let Jayshawn Tate do it. Jayshawn Tate, we've seen Jayshawn Tate just absolutely cook and twirl and pirouette around defenders when he gets to his left hand down on the low block. Just let Jayshawn Tate get ISO post-ups to close out the game in garbage time so that the Rockets can actually get some consistent offense. But I digress. The garbage time play it's not that big of a deal, but it would have been. There was a moment where I was holding my breath and I was like, another collapse against a bad team? Thankfully not. The turnovers, though, continue to be a major problem for the Rockets. 19 turnovers in this game. There were periods where, look, they led by as many as 28 at one point in this game when the lead really ballooned out, like in the third quarter. But there were points where as they were up, 20, 18, 16, 24, whatever, they just got really sloppy with the turnovers. 19 turnovers. Pacers scored 37 points off those 19 turnovers, which is just freaking absurd. Like, that is, against any other team, this is probably a loss because of all those turnovers and all the points scored off of those turnovers. Now, thankfully, the Rockets also met their win conditions. They crushed it on the glass, 50-29 rebound advantage, so a plus 21 on the glass for Houston. They were a plus 5. They finished plus 5 at the free throw line. They were much better until kind of that garbage time stretch where, again, the Pacers racked up some free throws once the game was over, so to speak. But 18 of 24 shooting at the free throw line for the Rockets. Steven Adams had Jay Huff and Tony Bradley in hell early in this game. Like they both had 2 fouls each early in the game, and they couldn't hold him. They couldn't guard him down low in the paint. And the Rockets wound up managing to take care of business on their second chance opportunities, just destroying the Pacers on the glass. And again, that was leading to those second chance opportunities, 25-9 advantage in second chance opportunities for the Rockets. However, Indiana just torched the Rockets in transition, 26-4 on fast break opportunities for Indiana. So the increased pace of play that the Rockets were playing with these past couple games, the disruptions defensively and getting out and running on offense, that just kind of evaporated this game. It didn't quite matter because the Rockets were just that good against the Pacers, and they really didn't have an answer defensively for Kevin Durant. Three-point shooting was solid. They did a lot of damage down low in the paint, shooting 59% for the game, did Houston. And so ultimately didn't matter, but still some areas, you go through those different win conditions, right? The turnovers, the points off turnovers, the rebounds and second chance opportunities, the fast break battle. Like those are some of your kind of significant win conditions. And thankfully it didn't matter as much that the Rockets lost the fast break battle and also lost the turnovers and points off turnovers battle. But those are just things to be aware of, right? Areas that this team needs to focus on cleaning up, because against good teams, right? These 19 turnovers and 37 points scored off of them, that's going to be an L in most cases against good teams. So Rockets need to work on cleaning up those turnovers. It starts with KD not being a little lazy with some of his passes, but it goes down the board. I mean, you can point to Kevin Durant had 3 turnovers, Jabari had 3 turnovers, Amen had 3 turnovers, Reed Shepherd had a couple TOs, and then the Rockets as a team, right? That, like in garbage time, they had that 8-second violation on Aaron Holiday, right after the back-to-back threes that the Pacers hit late in the game. That sequence I was just talking about. And then Aaron Holiday was trying to walk the ball up and got pressured and turned the ball over. It's just, little sloppy stuff like that just shouldn't happen. And those are the things that they need to be able to clean up. Really quickly before I talk about Adams, I'll end on the sour note, unfortunately. Reed Shepherd continues to look really solid. 13 points, 6 of 12 shooting off the bench. Only 1 of 5 from downtown in this one, but that means he was 5 of 7 inside the arc in this one. He had some great touch around the rims, got a little floater going, had one that he knocked down that went like high off the glass. Just some good kind of downhill play from Reed Shepherd, had 3 assists, had a couple steals. Just a solid night for him. And then DFS continues to get his feet under him. That's been the really encouraging thing. He's capped at about 15 minutes per night right now, said Ime Udoka after the game. Tari is increasing to around that 25, 30-minute mark. So Tari's still also on a bit of a minutes restriction, but it's not nearly as aggressive as the one for DFS. And DFS in this game, I mean, he had some great defensive plays. He had some great moments guarding Pascal Siakam. The Rockets just had Pascal Siakam. He was struggling to get any kind of good rhythm going in this one. Also, Siakam, I don't know what he was struggling with, but the air ball at the free throw line was nuts. Like that was tough to witness. I mean, he pulled the string way too early on that one. And Tari's reaction after Pascal missed that free throw was just high comedy, because Pascal misses the shot and Tari's looking up at it and he just immediately turns and like cheeks blown out, trying not to just laugh his ass off. It was amazing. But getting DFS out there, right? It's helped elevate the Rockets defense, gives them another really aggressive, switchable defender, another guy with a ton of length. Helps preserve some of the other Rockets' better defenders, right? Because now, instead of all of the pressure being on Amen Thompson or all the pressure being on Tari or Jabari or KD, like now you've got multiple different defensive guys, and that plays into the spacing element, because we're seeing the Rockets run that 5-out spacing lineup, right? Where it's, some combination of KD, Jabari, Tari, DFS, Josh Okogie, and then Amen Thompson, out there, or Jayshawn Tate was even getting some burn in this one after Adams went down, with Tate kind of stepping up there in the fourth quarter to help close this one out. But the Rockets now have kind of another lineup variation that they can go to counter if another team maybe tries to play big, or if the Rockets want to go small, or if they want to go really switchy, defense oriented, whatever. That's what that gives them. So it's been really fun to watch that kind of work itself out in real time. The defense just feels so much better with DFS out there. All right, let's talk about the Adams injury. It's very unfortunate. Steve-O has been solid filling in for Alperen Sengun in the middle these last few games. Obviously, he's a really important part of what this Rockets team wants to accomplish. His impact when he's on the floor is undeniable on both ends. But he gets tangled up with Tony Bradley. Looked like he twisted his ankle. And it really disappointing just because obviously Steve-O, at this stage in his career, any injury is frustrating, and the Rockets are probably going to be really cautious with working him back. And it sucks because it just felt like the Rockets just got whole again, right? Like they just got DFS back, and then they lose Alperen Sengun. And it's like, okay, you're playing against some middling competition, right? A struggling Cavs team, a bad Pacers team. You got a bad Nets team coming up. You've got a kind of softer stretch of the schedule for sure. But at the same time, just when it felt like the Rockets were going to be whole again, now you lose your backup big who's been so impactful in his minutes. No idea how long it's going to take for Steven Adams to get back. We didn't get a post-game update, but the hope is, right, that Alperen Sengun should be ready to go for the New Year's Day game against the Nets. And with no Steven Adams now out for the foreseeable future with the ankle injury, it's going to be important to get Alp back and healthy. If they don't have Alp, then Clint Capela becomes your starting big man. And Clint's been solid. He's been serviceable in his minutes, but then the Rockets become really thin on the front line, which might not matter as much against the Nets, but it will probably matter a lot against the Dallas Mavericks coming up on Saturday, because they've got a ton of frontline size. So if it means getting Sengun one more day of rest and just running with Capela as your one big against the Nets, so be it. But losing Adams is no small loss for this Rockets team, right? Their defense has been better with him on the floor. He's a great backline communicator for the defense. Offensively, he sets the bone-crushing screens. He's an underrated passer. He gets them all the second chance opportunities. The rebounding numbers are insane with him on the floor. And so they're going to sorely miss him for whatever time that he ultimately does miss out on. So hopefully a speedy recovery for Steve-O. Really unfortunate that it happened, but given how cautious they were with DFS and slowly ramping him up, given how cautious they were with Tari Eason with the oblique injury, I would expect that they're going to play things very safely with Steven Adams going forward. And look, once Sengun is back, we talked about this last episode, and I don't know why everybody got in a tizzy and frustrated, because my whole point last episode talking about the Adams Sengun defensive numbers was that the numbers were overblown. Yes, technically the Rockets have been better with Steven Adams defensively this season than Alperen Sengun, but we've seen the Rockets be successful with Alperen Sengun in the middle last season, right? And technically the numbers were even better with Alperen Sengun than Steven Adams last season. And so that was my main takeaway, is I'm confident the defense can get back to that level with Alperen Sengun as the only big on the floor. And for what it's worth, when I say only big, I don't count Jabari Smith Jr. as a big. He's just a jumbo wing for purposes of that defensive discussion. But for Steven Adams, disappointing. It's the one kind of downside to this loss, unfortunately, for the Rockets. Hopefully he's not out for too long, but a speedy recovery for the big Kiwi. With that, I want your thoughts on this Rockets game. What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? What stood out about Kevin Durant's 30-piece? How are you feeling about Jabari Smith Jr., his growth and improvement, the Twin Reaper himself? Give me all your thoughts in the YouTube comments. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.